And this is the West Midlands Police representative on Sky News, and this is what he had to say. Chloe, you commented on this earlier, so
yeah, I did a video on this.
Say police presence, because I mean clearly your officers were there, but they were not visible, and yet there were an awful lot of people out and an awful lot of people who were armed with various weapons.
So we have really strong business and community relations, and because we were aware through intelligence that there was a potential protest through that misinformation yesterday, we had the opportunity to meet with community leaders, with business leaders prior to that event to kind of understand the style of policing that we needed to deliver during the course of that operation. So we knew that there was going to be a large amount of people out on that counter-protest. We knew who the vast majority of those people were. We'd had conversations in terms of what that was likely to look like. And so our policing response was commensurate to that intelligence and the information that we'd held with our partners and communities prior to that event taking place.
Even given there were so many of them clearly armed, I mean, would you do the same if it was an EDL type situation?
So we've policed in response to the intelligence that we received at that moment in time. What I would say is that the vast majority of people that attended that protest yesterday did so law-abidingly, and they did it with the right intentions. There were just a small minority of people that attended there and were intent on causing either criminality, disorder or fear within our communities. What we saw was a response from our communities where they were trying to kind of make sure that that was policed within themselves as well, and trying to deter people from taking part in that disorder. And as a result, we've been able to go on, gather that evidence, gather that information. We have made arrests. Well, we've made an arrest this afternoon. We continue to try and make arrests in terms of those people that were involved in those disorders yesterday.
So, I mean, he's basically saying that we spoke to community leaders, I mean, in the Muslim community in Birmingham, and we got reassurances from them, blah, 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 blah. Basically, he's it's that old Winston Churchill adage on the crocodile, feeding it to, basically hoping that they're going to eat you last, isn't it? And what I can't understand is when a massed mob turn out with weapons and they're on broadcasts on live television, intimidating female reporters and openly armed. They're not concealing these weapons. They were openly armed. And they were allowed to gather. They were allowed to intimidate people gathered at a pub in Birmingham. They were given a green light to disrupt a karaoke session at a pub. And then this officer stands and says, I spoke with community leaders to get their permission and was advised on the style of policing needed. Well, no, actually, as a taxpayer, the style of policing needed is exactly what the founder of the police said, Robert Peel, which is that you police without fear and favour, without bias, without political intervention. You enforce the law. You do not talk to community leaders to ask them what they would like to happen. Would you do that with a gang of people that are dealing drugs on county lines rather? Would you actually ask them as community leaders if you can get permission to start arresting some of their supply lines? What a farcical thing to say. The law is the law. You are admitting that there is such thing as two-tier policing in this country. And then we had this statement from the police that starts off,
Salam alaikum.
So, Salam alaikum, he says.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the leaders and elders that have afforded me this opportunity to speak to you personally. The reason I'm speaking is to underline my commitment on behalf of the organisation to protect all the communities across the West Midlands.
Well, that's not what you did, is it, actually? Because you allowed the communities, certain communities, to run rampant with weapons and disrupt a karaoke night and smack the seven bells out of some lad outside of a pub. But, you know, apart from that, but I clocked that actually Andrew Lawrence, the comedian, starts his video only the other day. So his video was posted on August 4th, and this guy posted this video today from the West Midlands Police, which, by the way, West Midlands Police clearly have one or two bloody issues, tell you that for free. But Andrew started his video like this.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Constable Detective Officer Peter Pisspot from Twat Valley Police. Assalamu alaikum. Now, many of you will be aware that over the past few days we've seen rioting on a significant scale across much of the country. There appears to be a huge number of British people angry at consecutive governments' repeated failure to address the issue of mass uncontrolled immigration into the country. British working class people who've seen public services they're paying for become entirely inaccessible. British working class people who've seen their neglected towns quickly fill up with non-English speakers from third world failed states. British people deeply anxious about.
So it goes on like that, and it's very funny. But I found it fascinating that he started off by saying that bit of Arabic there. And then this guy in the West Midlands Police did exactly the same thing and says, you know, I want to reassure elders and what's the other word? Elders and something else within the Muslim community that we are on your side, protecting all communities. Well, you're not actually, and you've exposed yourself for the farce that you are. But Chloe, you did a video on this. What's your thought on that actually, in the comparison between Andrew's video and the West Midlands plonker plod?
I mean, they seem awfully similar if you ask me. And there was actually another video which Eunice had a picture of in the background of the video that he did today. I'll go and check it out. Where you've got another video of a police officer making a similar statement about responding to two-tier policing accusations. And again, starts off with Assalamu alaikum, and has behind him a bunch of Muslim men. I presume these are the supposed community leaders who are advising the police. And it literally looks just like a hostage video, which Eunice pointed out. I mean, Eunice, you explain.
Yeah, so I just find it extremely pathetic that the police force in this country has come to this. And it always happens, like, I don't know if you remember the BLM riots? And at the time I was in uni, and basically I put up a few posts because a lot of people in my class were putting up a black square on their Instagram. And I was thinking, this is ridiculous, right? Because these people are not peaceful. They're setting buildings on fire. They're vandalizing statues. They vandalized the statue of Churchill. That's only in the UK. And this George Floyd thing didn't happen in the UK. The police here doesn't even have guns, all right? And then I went online and I said something like, look, first of all, the police here don't have guns. And second of all, if you want to riot and if you're concerned about racial injustice, do it peacefully. Like, I don't agree with you taking down statues. I don't even agree with you taking down history of like slave owners. Because what are you going to do? Take down statues of George Washington. So that whole concept I didn't agree with, right? And I remember...
Well, they took down statues in this country as well, of course.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I just don't agree with that. I don't think you should take down history because that's a short way of history repeating itself. But anyway, I remember my university sending me an email saying, oh, we've heard you posted racially motivated posts on your Instagram. And some students have complained and stuff. And I was thinking, like, what the hell? Like, this is my opinion. Like, the university shouldn't be allowed to message me because of my opinion on social media. I didn't even say anything offensive. I said, this is not right. Now, I'll take you back 10, 15, almost 20 years now. So I was in a secondary school with two terrorists. And I think I've told this story on my social media. So there was these two guys I went to school with. And one of them is called Tariq Hassan. The other one is called Gusai Habib. And basically, Gusai Majid used to sit right next to me in form. And this was around the time I became an atheist, even though I'm spiritual now, I believe in God. So I remember having debates with these guys, like really heated debates. And they wouldn't agree with it because they would come up to me saying, oh, Yunus, why don't you pray? And they would try to bully me physically and mentally and verbally. And I got into physical fights with them many times, like at least 10 times. And I knew these guys were dangerous. So I went to the school. I was like, look, these guys are pushing the wrong narrative in school. They're pushing an Islamic extremist narrative in school. Please do something about it. The school didn't do anything. And this is in Victoria, it was called West Midlands City School. That's the school I went to.
Mm.
And these guys, like 10 years later, or maybe over 7, 8 years later after we left school, they went to prison for 25 years for trying to kill a police officer. They went to
Wow.
ISIS
Wow.
and they got trained. So if you haven't seen the video, Chloe, I will send it to you. I made it like 6,
Oh
7
my God,
months ago.
yeah, show me. I mean,
Yeah.
that's insane. And to
Yeah.
think that
And
maybe if those teachers had listened to you and clipped those boys' wings back then they wouldn't have gone
exactly.
to have done what
Well,
they did.
exactly. Yeah,
And
it's
this is
all
Wow.
what my
ignored. It's
point
all
is
covered
now.
up.
My point is now these stupid police officers, they're sitting there like hostages of the Islamists, and the Islamists are looking down at them, right? And they would go after the so-called far-right extremists. And who knows in 10 years' time what would happen? In a 10 years' time, I wouldn't be surprised if one of those guys is literally a hostage in that kind of video. So
Well,
we need
let's
to
have a.
grow a backbone in this country, literally.
Well, speaking of, this guy certainly doesn't have a backbone. He's more like a sort of plasma jellyfish, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Phil Hutchinson and I am the Superintendent for Greater Manchester Police based in Oldham. Obviously echo everything that the leader, Rouge, has said. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting us and arranging the meeting. It's the inaugural meeting. We're having these now bi-monthly, so in respect to what Rouge has mentioned about some increased tension, obviously there are a number of
Where's the
issues going
gun?
on nationally and within Greater Manchester. We're engaging with all communities, and Greater Manchester Police and UK policing will continue to deal with perpetrators and people who are committing crime.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
word!
just so
Yeah.
funny. It looks just
Yeah.
Hello,
like a
Assalamu
hostage video.
alaikum. My name's
It is
It's like,
hilarious. It's hilarious, but it's also quite scary because this is what's happening to police forces up and down the country. You know, you've got to laugh at
Yeah.
it, but good lord, you know, the idea that there's not two-tier policing in this country is just it's for the
There is.
birds. Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.